Hi, welcome back to the Lead Automation YouTube channel. I'm CEO Malachi Greb. So how did I go from not knowing anything about this industry to becoming a controls engineer, programming PLCs, robots, systems with things like servos and vision and all these cool technologies, and then later becoming project manager and now CEO of an automation company? I'll tell you, it's been a wild ride, a wild journey, but today I'm gonna tell you guys how I went through this process. But really, I want to give you guys some tools on how you can navigate your career, get through college, choose the right career path, degree path, I should say, and how to navigate that a little bit to reach the most successful point you can in your career. Also, check the Manufacturing Come Up Out, our podcast on people's stories, how they've grown in the industry, and how they've navigated their career. We've interviewed people everywhere from engineers to CEOs of billion-dollar companies. So let's dive right into this thing and take it all the way back to getting started with the school, right? Maybe you're in high school, maybe you've just graduated high school and you're looking for the next step. And if you're past this phase, if you already graduated from college, maybe you can jump over to the second half of this video where I'll discuss a little bit more about my career and navigating it to get to where I'm at today. But to start off, you really need to start examining your colleges. Start examining different options. Now, there may be limitations like your ability to travel and live on campus or live from outside your hometown. And if you're really restricted by location, then your options are gonna be limited. However, start off, if you can, look and explore what colleges are offering these different types of degrees, right? Also, you need to understand, are you going for an engineering degree or are you going for an associate's degree? It's gonna be very, very different. And if you start off with an associate's degree, thinking that you're gonna convert that over into an engineering degree, you might wanna really start checking out the different curriculums and the curriculum requirements, credit transfers, because a lot of that's gonna play a big role. And at one point in time, I was looking to shift over to engineering, and I essentially would have had to have started over school completely. So you don't wanna make this mistake 2 years into your degree. You wanna find out now what is convertible, what's not convertible, and also to continue your education, right? If you think you may wanna do more than 2 years of school, what else may you wanna do? And how will your credits transfer over into the next thing that you wanna do? So that's very general. Let's talk about like the actual degree types, right? You wanna look for mechatronics, advanced automation and robotics, industrial technologies, electrical mechanical, right? Look for degrees that have these type of words in them to guide you to that type of degree, right? The name of the degree should be pretty self-explanatory on what it is, but after you find these different degrees, you also need to start comparing the different degrees, right? You need to compare the degrees of the same college. You also need to compare the degrees from different colleges, right? So I'll just use two local colleges, for example. There is Ivy Tech Community College and there's Vincennes University. Both these colleges offer a robotics program, and Ivy Tech also offers a mechatronics and an advanced automation and robotics degree. So you need to look and see what exactly is inside of those curriculums, right? What are the exact classes inside those curriculums? What are the elective options at that college? And part of the reason why you want to make sure you're examining these degrees and seeing what's inside these degrees is because some of them will have just the bare minimum requirements for that degree, right? There's some colleges that are very focused towards like the medical field, right? And they have an associate's for a technology type of degree. However, they don't have a ton of courses revolved around that technology degree. You know, another good indicator is if they have multiple degrees of a particular type, let's say a technology degree. Going back to Ivy Tech, they have a mechatronics degree and have an advanced automation and robotics degree. So that right there kind of indicates and shows that they have some variancy in their different courses, which also means they have to have more classes that are associated with those degrees. They have to have dissimilar classes, right? There has to be classes that are different from the mechatronics degree than the automation and robotics degree, right? However, these two things are very, very similar to one another. They're very complementary degrees to one another. Maybe the advanced automation and robotics degree may have more programming in it. You may see classes like PLC programming, robot programming. You may see PLC 1, PLC 2, PLC 3. You might see that in the advanced automation and robotics, whereas maybe you won't see as much of that in the mechatronics. Maybe mechatronics will only have like a PLC 1. So you need to think, are you wanting to become a controls engineer? Are you wanting to become a PLC programmer or a robot programmer? Look into those degrees and see like how many classes they offer in that thing, right? Like if you said, I want to be a PLC programmer, look in there and see how many PLC classes are in there. How many, if you want to be a robot programmer, how many robot programming classes are within that program? Let's say, for instance, if you know you want to do programming, maybe the other degree doesn't have hardly any programming at all. Maybe it has one PLC class, maybe one robot programming class. And if you know that you're going to be a programmer, you want to fill out with as many programming classes as you can, whether it's PLC or robot. Even if you want to be a robot person, having more PLC classes is better than not, right? Because it's better that you at least understand the PLC programming platform than not the robot, than not getting any exposure at all. So when comparing two different colleges, you can look and see, okay, I want to be a PLC programmer. This one offers this many programming classes. This one offers this many programming classes. I also suggest you go on site and you visit these different colleges, but maybe at first you're just looking at things online and looking at the curriculums and all those good things, and that's fine. I definitely suggest that. And you can immediately start off by doing the things like I mentioned before. How many programming classes does it offer versus how many programming classes does that one offer? How many degrees does it offer in this technical industry versus how many degrees does that one offer in this technical industry? So if college has 5 degrees, 5 associate degrees in advanced automation and advanced manufacturing technologies and mechatronics, if it has a bunch of degrees like that, then you know that that college is a very big supporter of technical type of degrees, and they've probably invested a lot into their training labs. They've invested a lot into their professors that are teaching those courses, and that's something you definitely want to keep in mind. The next thing to keep in mind is when it comes to your future academic growth, right? A lot of times classes are not transferable from one college to another. So if you go to a college that has multiple of these degrees that are in alignment with one another, then it's likely you can at bare minimum get 2 associate's degrees or from that same university. And this is exactly what I did through my academic part of my career. I essentially was able to take 2 more semesters of college and was able to get another associate's degree, to get a concentration in electrical, mechanical, robotics, and even mechatronics, all just by going an extra semester and modifying my electives so that when I'm taking this elective, it applies towards this other certificate or this other degree or this other concentration. So a lot of these degrees will also have concentrations, just to point that one out. You may have mechanical concentration for this advanced automation and robotics. You might have an electrical concentration for this automation and robotics. So I was able to take advantage of this, and I walked away from Ivy Tech with like 4 different certifications or concentrations and 2 associate's degrees. And that doesn't even consider some of my things like my Siemens certification that I got. I got a quality control certification. I got a FANUC certification. I got a Yaskawa certification. So all these different certifications that I got, I was able to cram all these things in to a shorter amount of time, and I was able to do that in one college versus it could have took me 5 years to accomplish the same thing that I did in, let's say, 3 years. And if you're trying to convert your credits over to another college, you may lose a lot of classes. You may even have to retake PLC 1 or PLC 2 or PLC 3 because it doesn't fall in alignment with what their criteria is at this other college that you want to go to. One thing that I mentioned before is you may want to make sure that you know whether you're going to go the engineering route versus the associate route. However, I do think if you did go that route, your amount of time required for college will be much more lengthy. I mean, you might even have to put in like 6 years of college to accomplish getting the associate's degree and get an engineering degree. However, you will come out of college fairly strong because those 2 things will align very well, because what you do in real life is actually more practical than it is engineering related. However, there's a lot of good things that are taken away from the engineering side of things, like just documentation, just a lot of the formalities of engineering you can only get from the engineering degree versus the technical degrees. There's definitely a lot of those formalities that are missing. However, you get your hands involved in a lot more things and a lot more hands-on experience with the technical associate degree. Which takes me to the next most important thing, is your career. It's your job placement while in college. So many people make the mistake of getting a McDonald's job while going for a technical degree. That is one of the worst decisions you can make. you're better off being the janitor of a automation company or a manufacturing company, where at least while you're pushing your mop around, you can see a manufacturing piece of equipment. You can see a conveyor, you can see a robot moving, right? And I also highly advise that you try to target an automation company if automation is what you want to do, right? If robot programming and PLC programming, or maybe it's mechanical engineering, if that's something that you want to do, that you go to an automation company. And I'd probably even go to a smaller automation company, because that's where you're really going to get the most exposure to the most technologies. You're going to be able to navigate within that company very openly. And that's also another huge reason why I've been able to become as successful as I have and as quick as I have. You know, with spending a little over a decade in the industry, I've been able to work as controls engineer, work as an electrical engineer, work as a project manager, become the CEO of a company, and now again doing millions of dollars in revenue. And I did this in such a short period of time, but it was because of how much stuff I crunched into a short period of time, right? There was definitely times where like I wasn't sleeping, and I was sleeping in my car, and I had to go from work to school, back to work again, and then back to school again. There was one semester that I had that was terrible, and I didn't get to sleep for like 48 hours straight, but I was very determined to execute as many things as quickly as I could. And through this process, I gained so much experience, right? I started off being a grunt or a hands-on worker, right? I was just doing manual labor type of tasks, and these things really built the foundation for me to get to where I'm at. You know, when I started out, I was doing robot refurbishment work, which means, you know, we had to rewire robots, we had to change out the wrists and motors and pulse coders and different items on the robot, right? Then we had to do some of the software things that are associated with that, like remastering a motor. And so that gave me exposure to the software side of things. And I had to jog the robot to what we would say exercise the joints, right? So we would test each individual joint by running them through many, many cycles to ensure that the robot was in good running condition. And so then that gave me the ability to do a little bit of programming in the robot. It was very, very simple programming. It was nothing complex at all, but I was at least able to jog the robot around. The employer felt comfortable with me being able to jog a robot around. And then I did other things such as panel building, right? Then I was wiring panels, and again, like I said, I was doing some wiring for robots as well. But when I was wiring panels, you know, I was wiring up, you know, servos and PLCs and I/O and all these different things within, you know, a panel, and entire systems I was wiring as well. But I got enough exposure to wiring the panels for robotic cells that I knew how to wire them pretty much in my head. The only thing I needed the print for was to know the wire label that it was gonna be and know the exact terminal that it was gonna land to. But other than that, like I knew, you know, that this is the terminal where I wire the VFD's forward command, right? I'm just giving that as an example. That's getting deep. But point being is that gave me the experience to be able to electrically engineer these panels, right? So I wired up so many of them. I got the experience from getting hands-on and building this fundamental knowledge that it then gave me the ability to do the engineering. I was able to engineer safety systems now. Now that I was able to engineer safety systems, I was doing risk assessments and risk analysis of systems, right? So this took me into a whole wide range of different things that I was learning to do. And at some point in time, I gained, you know, enough experience with jogging the robot and doing the engineering things, and doing the panel building, that, you know, I would then fill in and help other engineers, other controls engineers with their projects. Maybe, you know, the robotic engineer was behind, and so I filled in and helped in some spots where I could. Then after executing some projects like that, you know, I then started to request, hey, can I get a project? Can I get a project? Can you let me program this robot on this project? And after asking for a few projects, finally somebody gave me the opportunity to be able to be the primary robot programmer for a project, right? And then I kind of had a senior person looking over me for a project or two. And then next thing you know, I was doing that. I was doing the robot programming for a majority of the projects. And then I was getting exposure to the PLC side, because the PLC and the robot had to talk to each other. Hey, you getting this signal? Hey, is that happening? And then so I was getting involved in the PLC and understanding what's going on with the PLC logic. So now I was asking, hey, can I program the PLC? Can I program the PLC? And then at some point in time, now I'm doing the PLC programming. And then it got to the point where sometimes I was doing the PLC and the robot programming, right? And this just all came from like just building these fundamental knowledges that kept building on one another, and also opportunities popping up in the company. We don't have a robot programmer right now. Our robot programmer's busy. Our PLC programmer's busy. And so I was able to jump in and become the primary role, the primary engineer over a project, because whoever was originally the primary engineer was tied up and busy on other projects, right? So now this opportunity came to me, and then now, I have the PLC and the robot, and now I'm requesting, hey, I need somebody to help me program this robot, this PLC. This project's too big, the timeline, there's not enough time in this project for me to be able to do the PLC and the robot, so they give me a junior. Now I have a junior underneath of me who I'm telling them how they need to program the robot. These signals need to be laid out like this. And so just organically kind of growing into my career. But I only got this opportunity because I got a job while in college, right? I was in my first semester of college, and I landed this job, and I'm gaining this experience. And by the time I graduated from college, I knew more about automation than almost everybody inside the class, and the only people that probably knew as much as I did were people that were like from a Toyota and just happened to be doing some continuous education type of courses. And I even at this point had had enough exposure with automated systems that a lot of the professors I had more knowledge on automation than a lot of the professors had. And this would have never been the case if I would have never landed this job, right? How do you graduate college knowing as much as professors, if not more, right? The only way is to go and get a job doing the thing, right? And if it wouldn't have started off by me, like, I'll even say I was washing robots. I mean, I wasn't really ever going to that level of sweeping the floor or mopping the floor, but it still would have invited the opportunity that if I'd have been there, I'd have stuck around, I'd have asked the questions. It may start off that you're bolting things to the ground, and then next thing you know, you're saying, hey, like, I've helped you guys bolt this to the ground. Or maybe somebody says, hey, like, I'm kind of busy right now. Can you teach the robot to these positions right here? Like, it's not that complex. Here's how you do it. And they just kind of hand it to you and say, here, you take care of this small thing. And it might be very, very small, right? But okay, they let you do that. Now, next time they let you do a little bit more. And so this is how this progresses and molds into you becoming very successful in your careers. You having the skill set, and then being there when the opportunity arises, right? I'm also very big on putting in a lot of hours, because I feel like the more time you're there, the more experience you're getting, the more exposure you're getting, and the more opportunities that can come to you, right? If you're working more than anybody and 5 p.m. rolls around and everybody else has left the office, but it's you and the primary controls engineer and he needs help with something, boom, you're there with him to do whatever the thing is, right? And since you're the only person he has there to lean on, now he's giving you some type of skill. You're getting some type of experience that's at a deeper level than other people are getting, right? And this is an exponential type of experience, because essentially maybe at this point you're getting a one-on-one training. Here, let me show you how to do this. Here, let me show you how I did this thing. Oh, okay, yeah. So now you gain an experience that a lot of people are not getting because you also put in the extra time and effort. So going back into my career a little bit, like, this really led to me then becoming a project manager of projects, and it really led to leading entire crews for installs, and then it just kind of gave me the confidence over time that, like, okay, I can do these things on my own. I can do, literally to this day, I can do every single thing in an automated system except for the mechanical engineering by my own hand. I can jump into a PLC and program it. I can jump into a robot and program it. Hand me the teach pendant. I still do some of those things today. Generally I try not to, so I can do more business related things, and I support engineers when they're needed. But if I wouldn't have stepped up and taken on all the opportunities that came to me, and if I wouldn't have put myself in that original position to work for a company like this, I would have never been in the place that I am today. I probably wouldn't even be close to where I'm at today, right? So I do think that getting in a position that is fitting to the career path that you want is extremely important, right? If you want to become a program manager of an automotive sector company, right, you need to go work for an automotive supplier. Even if it's a line operator, you're better to be there as a line operator than not, and not get any exposure to what's going on inside an automotive company. Now, you may have to move from one automotive company to another if this one automotive company is not giving you the opportunity you're looking for, and that's something that you will see in big companies, right? And it's one issue with big companies when it comes to your own success for your career, is a lot of times those organic opportunities don't come up so easily, because the PLC programmer is the PLC programmer, right? And the robot programmer is the robot programmer. And a lot of times they don't let those things like interline, and a lot of times, like, if he's done with his job, then then he doesn't do anything over here in this other guy's job. So one, there's also a culture issue there where like, there's not just a mentality to step up and do whatever the thing is that needs to be done. Now I'll say automation, it has less of that because really when it comes to automation, we have to get the job done. We have to get the project done. And that's kind of the most important thing. However, again, bigger companies, it starts to get too structured, right? Where this guy only does this task, this guy only does this task. But when you're in the smaller type of companies, you have to do the PLC programming, you have to do the robot programming. You know, I started doing electrical engineering because we didn't have anybody to electrically engineer our systems. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. Right? Like I've already wired all these panels, blah, blah, blah. I know exactly, the only thing I need to figure out how to do is how to use AutoCAD. You know, so then I started just using AutoCAD. I started doing the design, electrical design for the systems. And then we passed that off to an external company to examine and approve the prints that I was making, right? To make sure that what we was implementing and everything with the system was okay. I got the drawings and stuff approved, and then over time, you know, I became the guy who was doing the electrical engineering, right? And again, you know, these opportunities wouldn't have been there if I didn't initially take that job at the employer, at the place that I wanted a career in, and that I didn't step up and do some of the other tasks that were needed at the particular time. So there's a ton more to my career, and I'm sure you can find some other videos here on our YouTube channel where I dive into my career, as well as some other channels that I'm on, but I'll save that for another time. I'll save it for a future video where I discuss more on, you know, my career and but hopefully the insights that I've given you so far were enough to help boost you in your career, help direct you so that you can have a more successful career. Message me a couple years from now and let me know where you're at. You know, I have people walking up to me at shows saying, dude, like I followed you, you're the reason why I started, you know, taking this course, or you're the reason why I got this job. And it's crazy, and I love to hear that from you guys. I was even in India in a manufacturing facility, and somebody came up to me and they were like, dude, I watched one of your YouTube videos, and he's like, that's why I got this job right here. And I'm like, just mind blown. Here I am in India, in a completely different country, on the other side of the world, and somebody saying, hey, your video influenced whatever that I'm doing, right? And I'm like, you know, it's crazy, right? Mind blowing to me. So definitely message me. Feel free to let me know like how some of these videos have helped you in your career and how they continue to help you.